hello again, everybody. As you can probably hear behind me, the Centurion is sitting here running perfectly. I figured out the problem. And before we go into what it was, let me turn this off. Alright, I turned it off so it's a little quieter. But before we go into what the problem was and what I found, I would like to thank everyone who commented and gave me advice. I really appreciate it. Y'all had some really good advice, and actually some of your advice is what led me to find the problem that I found indirectly. Anyway, let me spin you around here and let's take a look at what went wrong with this Centurion. Okay, so going from the readings I was getting on the torque app when I was watching the live data, I was seeing that the fuel trims were just crazy. It was like -25 fuel trims. So what the car was telling me was that it was running really rich and it was trying to lean it out. Okay, it turned out it was not running rich at all. In fact, it was running really lean. In fact, it was lean enough that at idle it just wouldn't idle, and that's what was causing our problem. Okay, in this wiring harness right here, I've got it taped up. Actually, I got it taped up with duct tape right now. I've got to find some electrical tape. I was out, so, you know, anyway. But this is the wire going to the oxygen sensor. Now, when I was up here and I was going to change out the coil pack, because I have another coil pack with a ignition module, all known good stuff. I know it's all good, so it would work. So I was going to swap those out and just try it. And while I was in here, I unplugged the oxygen sensor, and I'll put up a shot of the video where I was showing you. Now, I lost the one piece of wire. It was still in there. It was in this old kind of loom right here. That's what I need to put back over it. But it was inside of that kind of loom, and the wire had broken. And the way that it had broken, it was broken off up here, and it had almost come completely into here, and when I touched it, it fell off. It fell down in there, so it's not on the video. But anyway, that wire and another wire were barely touching each other, and it was getting a voltage through that, and it was telling the computer that the car was running super rich and it needed to lean it out because it was getting way too much fuel, because the oxygen sensor was showing over a volt, and the oxygen sensor can only go up to a volt. So it was showing over a volt, so the computer, of course, was thinking that the engine was running super rich and it needed to turn the fuel down. So it turned the fuel down, way down. When it did, it didn't have enough fuel to run, and that's why, even though we had good fuel pressure, it was spitting and sputtering, and it would finally quit. So, what caused this? Alright, it was a few years ago, and I don't know why it held out until now before that wire broke. But all of these wires, it grabbed it actually right here and yanked all of these wires very hard. I had to patch a few of them up. I had a belt, one of these serpentine belts. You see how it has several grooves down there. Well, in between one of those grooves, or I think it was like 2 of them, like it lost 2 of those and it started flapping. And I heard it, and I was pulling over, and before I could get pulled over, a piece of that belt came around, grabbed this wire, grabbed the battery cables and just ripped them off, and that hose right there, this hose going to this overflow tank for the radiator, it grabbed all that and just jerked it really hard before the engine quit. When it did that, it jerked this down to where it was actually kind of wrapped into the belt, and I thought the wire was fine. It still had the loom on it. Everything looked fine. The car still ran fine after I put everything back together, but it had weakened those wires. And over time, over the years of hitting all the bumps and what have you, and the corrosion, of course, it just slowly worked its way in too. And then it had a place back here, and the other wire developed a place, and it was just touching just enough. The only way I found it was I started getting ready to change that out because I have an extra one. So, thank you for the comments on the ignition module, because going after that ignition module probably is what helped me figure it out, because I was right in this area when I spotted this wire that was hanging out of here. So that's how I actually found it. I just kind of looked out. I would have probably eventually ran across it, but see, it wasn't throwing any codes because it was thinking that the oxygen sensor was working. It was just the engine was running super rich, which it wasn't. Anyway, yeah. So the old Centurion is back on the road. Now, one, I did have to buy a part, and this was my fault. The idle air control valve, I took it out and kind of cleaned it up and everything, and what I ended up doing was I tested it. I plugged it in, and I went in there and turned the key, and the little plunger came in and out a little bit, I guess adjusting for whatever it was, you know, I guess adjusting for holding it open a little. Okay, so then when I turned the key off, it started running out, and before I could get out here, it ran all the way out, and the little plunger shot off like a bullet somewhere. So that's why I replaced the idle air control valve with another one off another car. That one turned out it was no good, so I had to go get that. It was like $25. So yeah, that was my fault. It didn't need this before I got a hold of it. After I got a hold of it, I messed it up. So yeah, that was not any fault of the car. It was, if you're going to test your idle air control valve, don't plug it in and make it run in and out, because it will self-destruct, apparently. I did not know that. I do now. Anyway, we have the old Centurion back on the road. It runs, actually it is now running better than it has ran for a long time. It's always ran good, but it's running even better. So yeah, I'm happy. In that last video, I told you it was probably something really simple, and it was. And I should have checked that, but I was looking at it and I was seeing that the oxygen sensor was getting a reading, and I thought, okay, well that means it's working. I should have checked the wires. I should have known better. But anyway, once again, I really appreciate everyone's comments and everyone's advice on what was wrong with the car. And thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to comment and try to help me out. Thank you. Anyway, I guess that's going to be about it for this video. Just wanted to do a little update. Appreciate everybody watching, and I'll see y'all on the next one.